Good evening and welcome to ET Times. I am Jenny Lewis. According to a recent report by the Fraser Institute, an independent, nonpartisan Canadian think tank, Canada's population is aging, federal government spending is at an all-time high, and is likely to increase further in the coming policy address. Under these circumstances, the federal government is not expected to balance its budget for another 30 years. According to Jack Foss, an economist at the Fraser Institute, and one of the authors of the report, Ottawa is already facing decades of deficits before any new spending is announced in the throne speech. This will inevitably weaken Canada's federal finances and place a real burden on future generations. The report estimates that the country's deficit will increase from 2.6% to 3.1% of GDP between 2021 and 2050. This estimate is based on conservative assumptions, including the absence of any recession and continued low inflation and interest rates. The report also estimates the federal debt to GDP ratio. Between 2020 and 2050, there will be a significant increase from 49.1% to 69.6%. Foss also commented that Canada is accumulating federal debt at a level higher than in the early 1990s when the country was on the verge of a debt and currency crisis, and that this was before any new potential spending was announced in the New Deal report to assess the deficit, primarily due to an aging population, with more people retiring in anticipation of the 65-plus population as a percentage of the total population. There will be an increase from the current 10% 8 to 24.1% of the population by 2050. Aging means that government spending on programs, such as pensions and health insurance, will increase. At the same time, the number of people paying taxes as a percentage of the population will decrease. Ottawa's imbalance between spending and revenue will only get worse, says Grover, a senior fellow at the Fraser Institute. The government is faced with a choice, says Robert Graberman, a senior fellow at the Fraser Institute, of either reforming the system at first or developing policies to improve economic growth to reduce the aging population. The government has to improve economic growth to mitigate the effects of an aging population, or run up even larger deficits in a few decades, says Graberman, a senior fellow at the Fraser Institute. The former federal finance minister, John Monneau, announced in July that the federal deficit for the current fiscal year was expected to reach $343.2 billion. This is due to the massive economic rescue and stimulus package launched by the federal government in response to the new coronavirus epidemic. The national debt has accumulated to $1.2 trillion, which is comparable to the level of spending during World War II.